Back to the final hour of Weekend Express. Now, we are fast approaching the festive season. How safe are you as you travel? How can you avoid road accidents as you go about your merrymaking? What measures can be taken? Now, joining me in studio to have that conversation is to my far left, Francis Theory, who is the Director General of AA, also known as Automobile Association of Kenya, and to my immediate left, who is Njeri Waithaka, who is the Director of Road and Safety at NTSA, also known as National Transport and Safety Authority. Thank you very much for joining us here on Weekend Express. Now, I'll start with you, Njeri. What are the most common causes of road accidents in Kenya?
Thank you, Ashley, for having us here today. The most common cause of crashes in Kenya is human error, the human element, that being the road user. 85% of deaths on our roads are directly as a result of that human error.
Okay, Francis, I'll go next to you. There's so much that has been happening in terms of road accidents. Are we doing enough as a country?
Yes, I think there are quite a lot that's happening in the country. But I think I want to go back to what Jerry has said.
Yes.
I think the biggest cause of road clashes, other than probably the vehicle, the condition of the vehicle and the road, I think it's human behavior. I think it's how people behave when they're on the road. It's the attitude aspect. It's how they ignore simple things like road signs. But I think there's a lot of campaign happening on our roads. There are a lot of campaign happening to try and make sure that people understand how important this is.
You've talked about road signs, and AA is one of the driving schools in Kenya. What are the road signs, some of the road signs that are mostly misinterpreted?
Let me start by saying this. Road signs in our roads are categorized in three. If you look at the road signs, they either be either circular or in a triangle or a rectangle. The circular ones are mandatory. Yes. They are signs that tells you exactly what you're supposed to do, and they must be followed. And those are signs like the speed limit, which people sometimes would ignore. Those are signs like the no-go zones, like don't do a U-turn here, and so on. The warning signs, which are the second category, they try to tell you that there's something that you are going to encounter, like a black spot, you know. And I think they can't be ignored again. Like there's a bridge ahead of you. You're going to go into a narrow road. So I think ignoring them again becomes fatal. The third one is more informative. They tell you there's a hospital allowed. They show you direction, and so on. Yeah. So I think in terms of road signs, for me, is all of them should be obeyed. Right. I think we should be able to look at all the road signs and obey them.
I'll just speak out something that you've mentioned, black spots. And yes. Jerry, we are aware that NTSA has mapped up some of the areas that we can be looking at, even as we go about our festive seasons. What are they?
Because we analyze where the crashes mostly occur, we have been able to map out those black spots. There are hundreds of black spots in our country as we speak now. These are the places where hazards tend to occur, either because of the road design, because drivers are not aware, for various reasons. We have a very comprehensive report that we'll be launching later this month that we have done with our partners to let road users know about those black spots, or hazard spots as we call them. However, we all know about Salga. I think this season we are all talking about Salga. Yes. Salga is a major hazard spot. We also have several other hazard spots that we've identified. Just to mention a few, because there's very many of them. We've identified Mlima Kiu, that is on Mombasa Road. Actually, Ashley, the entire northern corridor carries most of these hazard spots. The northern corridor runs all the way from Mombasa to Malaba. This is an international highway. At some points it's dual carriageway, at some points it's not. Yeah. And 40%, just over 40% of the deaths that we see on our roads occur on the northern corridor because of the nature of the northern corridor. Being a very busy highway, it brings with it marketplaces, little trade centers have developed along the northern corridor, which bring with them the hazards that we see that result in these crashes. But just to name a few, Salga is a major one, Mlima Kiu. In the coast area, we have Bonje. We've also identified Mouse Summit. And these are the hazard spots where we would ask drivers and all road users at those locations to exercise extra caution. That human element can be totally eradicated is if, as Francis says, we just obeyed road signs, we just respect our fellow road users. There's no need to speed if you cannot see what's happening ahead. If you're coming towards an area that is densely populated, please slow down, give yourself time to understand what is going on and to build some reaction time.
You've talked about human error, and this goes all the way back to driving school. And this is where I come to you, Francis. We have cases of people going to driving schools, paying, and just getting the driving license. Yeah. What do you have to say about this?
I think that should be completely discouraged.
Yeah.
Actually, I think as you go to get that driving license when you are not fully trained, you know you're just buying your casket because it's the one which is going to kill you. You go into that load without knowing what you're doing, without knowing exactly how to drive well. And I think this is why I want to talk about AA. Yeah. Driving school is one of our core business, together with the others. But one of the things I want to say is that we are trying to ensure that as our students are being trained, they are not just trained to be drivers, but to know how to coexist with other people on the roads. You know, don't just go into a driving school, get 2 lessons, then get your way into getting a license and get into the load. At least get into the real knowing of what is driving. What are the road signs? What do they say? How can you interpret them? And I'm happy that NTSA is coming up with a new curriculum, which probably all the driving schools will be required to follow. And I think the most important thing is we need to do something about our driving schools, and so that they produce the right students or the right drivers, who are there.
All right. Let me come back to you, Njeri. What should drivers consider, especially when they're traveling long distance, you know? What should they consider?
Any good driver should plan their journey.
Yeah.
It's high season. Actually, this weekend, the season travel began to peak. And any driver who's intending to undertake long-distance travel, both public and private vehicles, should plan their journey. Plan ahead. Identify the times that are most risky. We know that most crashes occur, most deaths occur during hours of low visibility. Ensure that your vehicle is in good working condition, that your vehicle is roadworthy. If you're taking several people with you, ensure that the vehicle has seat belts. Actually, every vehicle should have seat belts. Belt up. We know that seat belts give a driver 50% chance of survival. Ensure your vehicle is well fueled, all your lights are working. Plan ahead, it might be raining. Identify the route that you'll be taking. What are the hazard spots on that route that you're going to be taking?
All right, Francis, yes. Let me just read something for you. Data from the authority, which is NTSA, revealed that 849 people died from accidents involving private vehicles, while commercial vehicles-related deaths stood at 707, compared to 563 deaths associated with matatus plying various roads in the country. Now, you talked about defensive driving. AA, you offer defensive driving lessons. Can you tell us more about this? What exactly happens during these lessons?
Defensive driving, which is one of our initiatives, and probably only with AA of Kenya, is about not training the people who don't know how to drive. It's about the people who are already in our roads.
Yes.
It's actually retraining our drivers. It's actually preparing them to understand what they need to do when they're on the road. From what Jerry said, preparing for a journey. You know, if you're preparing for a journey, what are the things that you need to note about? You need to note about how long is your journey. Yeah. So how many stops do you need to make on the way so that you are not fatigued? Sleeping well if you are going for a long journey. Make sure that you are fresh, you know, you've slept well. To going into interacting with the road users. How do you interact with the road users? To understanding that you need to plan well in terms of don't leave late, then you have to rush. Plan your speed. How are you going to do that? To going now into the more details of understanding your vehicle, I think it's very important that we understand our vehicles. How do we maintain our vehicles? When a vehicle is on the road and you hear that small sound, what does it tell you? What are you supposed to do? When you go and fight, there is traffic on the road. What are you supposed to do? When there is bad weather, how are you supposed to treat that? You know, and it's so critical in terms of what we take you through stage by stage. If there's bad weather, drive slowly, keep your distance, put your dim light on, you know, and make sure that you understand the sequence of how those things should happen. In case of, say, an accident, how do you handle that? How do you, if you find an accident on the road, how do you handle that? How do you support
How do you handle that? If you can tell us, how do you handle that?
Yeah, and it's the simple things that you can do on the road. Like, for example, if you are the one who is involved in an accident, or in a car which is involved in an accident, and after that accident, check yourself. Are you hurt? Try and move your lips and see how you're feeling. If you feel you're okay, can you be able to check on the others? Are they hurt? And in terms of, it's just talking to them, first of all, talk to somebody, get to hear how they talk, just ask them, are you okay? Then they'll tell you yes or no. If they can't talk, then you know there's a problem. Check, are they breathing? Is there something that is blocking their breathing? Yeah. And without touching them initially, without like moving them, because you could move them and cause more harm. If, for example, it was like a motorcyclist, and probably he's with his helmet, just check that he's in the right posture, but don't remove the helmet. You know, the simple things that you can do. If you find everything is okay, then start to think about how do you secure that area. Like, for example, putting a warning sign, the triangle sign, to show people that there's an accident. Call for help, call for an ambulance. Manage the mob. Sometimes you have people who are coming to the accident scene, and they become a mob, and sometimes they can cause more damage than probably there is already. So it's about managing that side and ensuring that as the people who are coming to help comes, you're able to give at least information that will help them to save the casualties. To the extent of understanding that sometimes people could be having like a spinal injury, and if you move them in the long way, you could make that even be worse.
So how then do you know that someone has a spinal injury? How do you know that, okay, I need to react to this? Because most of the people who get to the scenes, the first ones, usually just want to check, okay, is he dead? Is he alive? How can I remove him out of this situation? So how can I know that, okay, this person is hurt, I need to be careful?
Actually, I would say, okay, I'm not an expert in first aid, but let me say this. I think the first thing is, in first aid is do what you can, but be careful on how you do it. So you may not be able to diagnose to know how much injury people have, but you can be able to see somebody who is probably sitting in the long way, and you can be able to collect them and allow them to breathe well. You can be able to just make people sure that somebody is straight, you know, straighten them up. But I guess the most important thing is, as you call for help, just make sure that you keep on talking to them. And then when an ambulance comes, now you have the people who are well-trained, who can be able to handle that.
All right.
Yes.
Jerry, NTSA has come up with so many campaigns to help with road safety. If you can just tell us, what are some of the campaigns to educate us?
You're right, Ashley, we do have various campaigns, both education and also enforcement campaigns to ensure that road users are complying. Yeah. Changing road user behavior, changing anybody's behavior is a humongous task, and it takes time. But through our campaigns, we are beginning to see some change taking place. As we speak, we've seen a reduction of 4.3% of fatalities from the same period last year. So we know we are heading in the right direction. We would like to see us making progress a lot faster than that, but at least we're heading in the right direction. Some of the campaigns that we have are about partnership working, because road safety is not just about NTSA. We are the state agency who leads this road safety agenda, but we cannot do this alone. And our key partners are those road users, the National Police Service, and even the private sector, as well as other state agencies. So we continue to partner with them. One of our most successful campaigns has been our NTSA application, which I hope you have downloaded on your phone, Ashley.
No, I haven't.
It is a free app.
Yes,
Please go to Google Store and download it. You're even able to check your own driver's license, ensure that your license is on the system, then that it is valid. You may find that it is not. And it's a powerful tool that we're giving passengers PSV passengers this Christmas. Download the app, and before you get on a PSV, you can verify that that PSV is properly licensed. It is a roadworthy vehicle because it has a motor vehicle inspection. You can even check the driver's license, and that empowers passengers to be able to make safe decisions. We all know about PSVs. There was a time in this country when PSVs were a menace, and as you just mentioned, Ashley, that private cars are leading in causing deaths, and that the PSVs are a bit further down. They are not the leading cause. And it's because of the regulation that we have been able to enforce and the compliance. And that is a huge success for us. And if we can continue doing that successfully and even do the same with the commercial vehicles and motorcycles and private vehicles, then there's no reason why we cannot be seeing that figure going down a lot more drastically.
So what lessons can we learn from the accidents that have occurred? Yesterday we saw 2 accidents that took place, and you know, most of the people that usually are involved in these accidents are aged, I had that.
It's the most productive population of the country.
Yes.
That is right.
Which means we're really losing people that we need. So what can we do? I'll start with you, Francis.
I think we've done a lot of campaign, especially in the matatu industry, a lot of campaign in the commercial vehicles. I think we also need to do a lot of campaign now in the private vehicle owners category. Because a very good example, Ashley, if I may mention this, we had a campaign we are dubbed Msamaria Mwema, which was supported by FIA, which is our affiliation in Paris. And we partnered with various people, various partners, including St. John's Ambulance. And we are saying, can we train people on behaviors? Can we train people on what needs to be done on the road? Can we also do capacity building in some of those black spots, such that if there was an accident in Salga, then the locals there can be able to come very quickly and know what to do. And it's a project that we are going on even in next year, and we'll be training a lot of matatu drivers in terms of what happens. Again, borrowing from the fact that when there's an accident, there's high possibility the first person to be there will be a matatu. And so the driver, if he is aware of what needs to be done, then he can be able to save some lives. But then, that has not gone into the private vehicle owners. And who are buying the vehicles now? There is that age group. You get out of college, you get a job, and the first thing that you get is probably a bank loan to buy a car. And then you are very excited. You want to go out and have fun, and sometimes you overindulge. So I think we need to do a lot of work in that area.
People usually forget that when you're driving, it's not only about you. You're not the only person being affected. You have motorists, you have boda riders, pedestrians. What lessons can you learn according to you?
The main lesson is respect.
Yes.
The pillars of safe road use are safer drivers, safer vehicles, safer roads. And the driver is very powerful with the decisions that a driver can make when they are on that road. Drivers need to be aware that we share this road space. Actually, all the road users, we're sharing this road space. Be aware of pedestrians. Look ahead. Don't just look at the rear tires of the vehicle ahead of you. Look 2 cars ahead. Why is the vehicle ahead of you slowing? Is there a cow crossing the road? Remember, we also share these roads with wildlife and even domestic animals and cattle. So be aware that anything can happen. So ensure that you are at a safe speed. And as Francis said, driving is a life skill.
Yes.
It's a skill that needs to be enhanced continuously. As you mentioned about the new driving curriculum, Francis, and it launches in January, it is a very comprehensive curriculum that centers on safety, because that has been part of our problem. This human error component we're talking about, a lot of it is driver training. And this curriculum is going to get rid of the buy your license. We started by training the instructors themselves, who are going to be training the drivers. And with that, we should start seeing change. When that 22-year-old gets their first job and gets that bank loan and buys a car, and they're now properly trained under the new curriculum to be a safe driver, then we should be seeing a change on our roads.
There's the issue of motorbikes. Now, motorbikes are so many in our cities, in our country, and these are the people who mostly cause accidents because they don't follow roads rules. So what can we do to help them as an industry?
You're right, Ashley. After pedestrians, the motorcyclists are the next category who are losing their lives at a very alarming rate. We have the border regulations, which are slowly being felt on the ground, slowly being implemented. But again, it comes back to behavior change.
Yes.
Why do these young men and sometimes women decide to ride their motorbike on the wrong side of the road? And those are the reasons that are causing them to, that cause these accidents, and they're causing them to die at a very concerning rate. Education, education, education. Why should you stay on the road? A lot of them are not trained, and that is where we need to start. We're partnering on the ground. We have county transport and safety committees. And through these counties, we're able to reach these border riders mashinani. Sure. Because they get on this bike, as Francis is saying about the 22-year-old who buys a car. There is a category who is a 22-year-old who buys a border or gets hired to ride a border that belongs to somebody else. Are they properly trained? And the border regulations, once they're fully being obeyed, will ensure that before you sell a border to anybody, see their license. They've undergone training under the new curriculum. They are safe to be on the road, and they understand why the rules are there, that the rules are there to save our lives.
But then there's the issue of corruption. Most of these people bribe their way out. What do you have to say about this? I'll start with you, Francis.
Yeah, I think again is the long kasha. It's about our kasha. But again, I think they're also seeing what is happening to them. And I think one of the things that we as, like he said, I think we need to continue training people. We need to continue talking to people. We need to continue letting people know the consequences of getting that license just because you can bribe your way into getting a license. As you say, it's true that most of the border don't even go to any school. They just get one other person who train them, and then they get into the load. And one of the things that we're also doing at AA is to try and bring in a training for border that is affordable to them. Because one of the issues allowed that is that they are not able to pay the 8,000-10,000 shillings to be trained and get a license. And that is something they're working on. And I think in next year, we're going to do a lot of that.
So then are the penalties for traffic defaulters punitive enough? Jerry?
The penalties are punitive enough. Actually, the law is in place. The law as it is very effective if it is abided by and enforced to the letter.
Okay, so as we wrap up, NTSC was supposed to come up with a driving license, an e-driving license, if I'm not wrong, that is supposed to help, you know, track these people down. When are we supposed to see this? We were supposed to see it in June, but June is way far past.
There have been some delays because we want to ensure that when we roll out this to the public, it is going to be a perfect document. It is in the pilot stage, and it should be rolling out soon. It has various features, which include storing biometrics. But the most important thing about this new license is safety. It has an audit trail. Unlike previously, where you could buy a license and then go and buy yet another one, and there were the database did not have an audit trail of your driving record, for example, Ashley, or my driving record. This new license follows me. It is a critical document in ensuring safety for the future.
So it means all this tag life, you know, people will just go.
Absolutely. And it is a warning for rogue drivers, for drunk drivers, for speeding drivers. We're now going to store your record on the system. And wherever you go, it is going to follow you. It has a point system. And once you lose a certain amount of points, you lose your license altogether.
What certain amount of points? How many points won? How many do you usually have? What is, you know, now the minimum you can get?
It starts off with 20 points. And when you get to 15 points, you're going to lose your license.
So everyone has 20 points?
Yes.
At the beginning?
Yes.
So is there a way I can add points?
No. By being a good driver, you maintain your 20 points.
Okay.
But when you keep committing traffic offenses, the points keep being knocked off because now you're becoming a hazardous driver. The points keep being knocked off, and it's going to affect insurance. It's going to affect, even if you're a professional driver, it's going to affect your job. And this is what we need to bring sense back on our roads.
Okay, I can't wait for that. So even as we wrap up, what are your final remarks? What is the way forward? I'll start with you, Francis.
I think for me is to all Kenyans, as you go to this festive season, enjoy. I think it's very important. That's why they are festive. But make the right judgment. I think it's very important to make the right judgment. Accidents are very expensive, very painful, emotionally draining. So I think it's important that we all learn what we need to do. As you go out there, prepare well, sleep well, don't be fatigued, don't drink and drive. I think it's very important that we all respect each other on the road. I think that's my
All right. And you, what are your final services?
It is a festive...
Final comments.
It is a festive season indeed. Let us keep it a festive season by observing very simple guidelines. We have at NTSA, we have launched a campaign for this Christmas called Fika Salama that focuses on the highest risk that we've realized cause the deaths at December. Every year we've noticed that December peaks with the death rate, simply because people are enjoying themselves more. Travel has increased. We are more impatient on the roads. We want to overtake recklessly. We want to overtake 10 vehicles at a solid yellow line. We want to drink and drive. And we all know the dangers. We want to speed. We're in a hurry. If it's a PSV or private car, I want to get to wherever I'm going in a hurry and come back to carry more. And so those are our themes that we're focusing on. And we're asking drivers, speeding is driving at a speed that is inappropriate for the conditions. It's not necessarily doing 176 in a 100 zone. You can be doing 33 in a 30 zone, and it is inappropriate. The decision you make as a driver could lead to the death of somebody else. It could even be your own death. So please be careful. Respect others. Just be patient. A few seconds to understand what is happening on the road. When we see that there's a traffic jam has occurred ahead, let us not be quick to overlap. Take a few minutes, understand what's going on. Call the police, call NTSA, notify that there's something happening on this road. But when we start overlapping and we create 11 lanes in all directions, we end up spending 2 days on that road. It's frustrating for the drivers. Then they start doing even more dangerous things. And I just urge drivers who want to have a good time, please have your good time. Enjoy the festive season. Just get home safely to enjoy the festive season again.
Yes, don't drink and drive.
Do not drink and drive.
All right, thank you there, Anjari Waidaka, who is the Director of Road and Safety at NTSA, and Francis Thauri, who is the Director General at AA, also known as Automobile Association of Kenya. That's where we wrap up our conversation here, but we take a short break. When we come back, we have